Hey, you've made it to Sprytes, where people managing social media accounts come for community. This year, our focus is social media for good. Together, we can work to make social media a landscape for healthy online communities to grow. Sound good? Then come along with us on the Sprytes podcast, where we share what we know, learn what we don't, and strive to make social media better for us all.
I've been down the back streets on the edges saying goodbye, kicking dirt up in my own face.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprytes podcast. You've made it again, and you are here along with me and Adrian and Amber and Seth. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. How are you?
Good.
We're great.
Very well, thanks. And you?
That's a really inappropriate question. I don't want to be asked how I am. My favorite thing to ask people lately is, what's the best thing you ate today? I feel like that's a way better question than how are you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I worked at a craft store years ago, and one of my jobs was to say hey, we're closing in 10 minutes. We're closing in 5 minutes. Okay, we're closed. And at the end of the last one, every single time I would come up with a really creative way to say, have a great evening. I'd say, have a fantastic evening, have a spectacular evening, to where it got to be where my coworkers would actually start joining in and giving me words that they had heard. Have an okay evening.
I wish you would say, remember, we've had Gia Goodrich on a few times, and she's a master at making up words. And one of my favorites is like sparkle-tastic.
Yes.
You know, like have a sparkle-tastic day.
I worked at a craft store, so I feel like that would have been wildly appropriate to say that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So before we get into the meat of content today, Adrian, tell me about a piece of social media content that brought you joy.
Yeah, well, we've had Brett Dillahunt on this podcast. He is the energy behind Mustangs for Mustangs. It is a nonprofit out of Prosser, Washington that benefits anybody who's ever gone to Prosser schools. So I'm from Prosser, and that's how I know of the group. But the group is very, very effective and awesome. And so we've talked to Brett about social media and how useful it is for his community and how he's used it with his community. Well, lately, Mustangs for Mustangs has been doing a series on the students that have gotten some scholarships through Mustangs for Mustangs. So, you know, part of their work is they do, immediate assistance. So, you know, you have no food for your family. They will get you some groceries that day. They help with rent assistance. They help with immediate needs. But they also do they do lots of different kind of projects. And one of them is making sure that they have a scholarship fund, and they always disperse funds to Prosser graduates from that year. And so it's June now, and so everyone's graduating, and so they're doing a series on the students that have won scholarships, and they have great photos of them. I love how their photos are they're either their senior photos or they're just like photos of the students. Just one of them was like a teenager just looking so sulky, but it made me smile because I'm just like, yep, that's high school. There you go.
Right?
Yeah. And it just, it gives a little bit of story behind the student and makes you feel just so connected, because you know that all your donations or all the work that you have contributed in whatever way is really going towards something. So it's really awesome.
Yes, I've loved seeing that too. This time of year with graduation, you know, it's very interesting. Last year and the year before was so strange with graduation, like what they actually were going to do for graduation, you know? And so this year you're starting to see things like everybody's just outside, and it's been cool to watch across the country how people are doing graduation and kind of moving on to the next phase. So
yeah.
all month long, we've been talking about musicians and musicians using social media for good. And I've kind of self-titled it Concert in the Park series, right? It's been super fun to meet some of these new musicians that I've never been introduced to before and actually getting to have conversations with them. Especially, I think one of my favorite parts from this last series was Haley Lynn, who did the Danny DeVito song. I got to ask her about how do you end up making a song about Danny DeVito? You know, and she actually gave the full backstory for it. So like that, I always love to know what inspired a piece of creativity. So that was the most fun for me to kind of learn about. Today, I've assembled you three here to just talk a little bit about what social media accounts for musicians that you follow. So are there musicians on social media that you follow? Who are they? Why do you follow them? So let's just jump right into that. Seth, you want to go first? Tell me about a musician or a few musicians that you follow on social media.
Okay. So yeah, I can totally do that. I have a couple that I'm going to share with you guys today. For those of you that don't know, I'm a Christian and I lead worship at my church. And so one of the groups that I follow is Hillsong Worship. And I follow them because when you follow a group on social media, often you'll be the first one to hear when there's like new releases and stuff like that, rather than hearing through the grapevine, which is really a great reason to follow the bands that you love. You're always up to date on what they're doing. And the other reason that I love doing it is you often get to find the heart, like you were talking about with that song, Danny DeVito. You actually get to discover the heart behind the song that was written. You get to,
Yes.
You get the backstory of what the artist was going through. You get to understand the emotion and everything and why they are, pouring themselves out in this form of art. So I love that. And then another one that I'm going to talk a little bit about is a band called Skillet. I have loved them forever. They are just really good rock, not quite screamo, but man, they can make your head bang against a wall. And I started following them, I don't know, a couple years ago. And the reason I want to talk about them is I actually discovered that when you're following a specific artist on social media, often you will find out that your values and their values don't always align, perfectly. Like I listen to their song and rock out to them and absolutely love their music. But when I started following them on social media, I discovered that I don't always agree with everything they have to say. Like, I'm like, what?
You should see the look on his face here.
Yeah. You said what? So I just thought it was an interesting thing that sometimes we follow people to find out, what they were thinking and realize that my own interpretation of the song is a much better interpretation. So, like, no, that's not what that song means. No, not at all. So those are my two that I just wanted to talk a little bit about.
That is
Awesome.
Interesting, right? Because like on one hand, you get a deep dive and it pulls you further into their values. And on the other hand, you're like,
Yeah,
it
like,
just kind of does the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Where do you follow them? Is it on Facebook?
Most of the musicians I follow on Facebook, Instagram, and definitely TikTok. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a thing.
Okay, Amber, you want to go next? Tell me about some musicians you follow on social media.
So I have a little bit different music style than maybe most of my friends here at Spryte or most of my friends, and that's okay. I love any kind of gritty. If you have like a female or a male vocalist that just sounds like they've been gargling with nails, like it does something to me, you guys. Like I just love it, right? So I follow the Marty Ray Project, and if you haven't listened to his music, I mean, I think that you would love it. It's very soulful, and again, pretty sure he either gargles with nails or smokes a pack of marbles a day.
Like something creates that deep soulful sound.
Yeah, but he is straight up like gangster looking fella, and he's got this beautiful wife who he is madly in love with, and he is so gracious and thankful to all the people. So I think that that's why I like following him on social media, because I love his music, but he shares stories. He gets excited when just like an average Joe shares his stuff, and he'll reshare their share. And he's just super humble. So when he blows up, if he ever blows up, which I'm counting on him and rooting for him, I hope that he keeps those qualities. But I love him. You should check his music out. And then the other, I guess we're going to call her a musician. I mean, she is a musician. She's an artist in every sense of the word. And another one, again, if you haven't checked her out, I think she started out on YouTube. Her name is Ali Spagnola. It's Spagnola. I don't know that I've ever heard her say her name out loud, so I don't know if I'm saying that last name correct. But she is quirky and goofy and fun, and she'll do something from she'll take like an Adele song and turn it into a Pink song. Like,
oh, interesting.
But she's brilliant, because she's silly and goofy, and the product comes out fun and silly, but she breaks down these songs by chords, and she listens to the music. I mean, the way that she does it is actually mesmerizing, and so funny. And then she records it in her homemade little studio that she made, which is just a box with fur. It might be her closet, but she put fur on the walls. And then one day she might be, I think her most recent one is she turned her couch into a dry erase board. So she does music, art, super goofy, way entertaining. She's brilliant, and I'd like to shake her hand.
I can't stop imagining how she turned her couch into a dry erase board.
Amazon, I'm sure.
I better go follow her to find out.
You won't be disappointed. I promise you. It's amazing content.
Where do you
And she has
them?
A beautiful voice. So I follow her on Facebook, actually, but I think a lot of her content she started on YouTube.
Okay.
But she's also into fitness too. So she kind of has 3 things that she does on her channel, and she does them all, which you wouldn't think would make sense, right? So she's into like working out and fitness. She's into doing weird, quirky art things, and she's not afraid to. I mean, she lives in an apartment, and I'm wondering if she owns the building, because she has done some crazy things to it. So either that, or she has a really understanding landlord. And then third is the music, but the music is so much fun.
I can't wait to see that.
It is good stuff.
Okay, Adrienne, what about you? Tell me about some musicians you follow on social media.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to say, kind of to preface what I was going to say, like to kind of comment off of what Amber mentioned, is I feel like with 2020 and 2021, we're all stuck inside. I mean, I used to love to go to concerts and go out and go experience music, but then I never followed musicians really before 2020, because I often don't really want to know what they're like in real life, because sometimes they're not that cool. Like, I don't want to be like upset by like how icky they are, if they are
disappointed.
Yeah. And so I didn't really follow very many bands. And so, but what I have found through 2020 is like I've been following people who aren't necessarily big names, but they have like that personality where they share all sorts of things. Like what Amber's saying is like they're really talented musicians, but then they also have like, they're also comedians, and they also, are just multi-talented people. And like now that everyone's stuck inside, like they can just be as creative as possible, and it's like their time to shine. You know what I mean? It makes me so happy for them, because they're like, yes, you all are like my captive audience now. I don't have to like beg you to come to shows.
Yeah. That's awesome. Two people that I love, one of them is called Playboy Man Baby, and I actually don't really love their music, but they are hilarious on Twitter, on
Instagram,
TikTok. Well, Instagram
TikTok
and TikTok.
too.
They do all the social medias.
Is it the same videos that he's sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they basically just make up really kind of stupid jingles that are just so, they're very millennial, right? They're millennials, and like, you know, the one that I first discovered them, the song was you know you're getting old when the things you get excited about is that asparagus is on sale today. Hip hip hooray, asparagus is on sale today. And so they make these little songs. And they're so short, right? They're definitely made for Instagram. It's not like an actual record where they're like making these songs. And so they're just musicians that were bored during quarantine, and all their gigs were canceled, and so they just made these amazing videos, and it's so delightful to watch.
One he published this week was like, I got new pants, and like it'll show him in his new pants, and they look like new of his old pants. Like they're like mustard colored khakis, and it's like the old mustard colored khakis and then the new mustard colored khakis.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so fun that we get to learn more about the musicians and their personalities. Kind of like the reason why I didn't follow bands to begin with is why I'm following bands now, because I'm like, oh wait, it is fun to know what they're like IRL.
And one thing I would say about that guy too is that he, I believe he actually got some notoriety and a lot of followers because he was actually very active he's from Arizona, and he was very active in the campaigns that were happening. So he would make
like political
jingles.
Campaigns.
Like what was it? The governor? Was it the Senate?
Yep.
In Arizona there. And so he would like make little jingles along with that. And then he ended up having to split accounts and like create one account that was only political focused and one that was more these silly jingles, because it didn't make sense to mesh those two audiences since it was Arizona focused. But I think that's kind of how he ended up getting shared a lot last year. So super interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of those kind of multi-talented people I love. The other accounts I wanted to mention were not specific musician accounts, but like music style meme accounts. There is kind of on Instagram this whole world of like classic 90s country meme accounts that I am obsessed with because I love 90s country. I love Alan Jackson. I love Shania Twain, Garth Brooks, all of them. Like the radio, like coming from a small town in Eastern Washington and farm country. You know, you're riding a school bus in 1996, and your school bus driver is listening to the radio station. Those country songs, those are so nostalgic for me, and I just think it's so funny. And people, like, they're making memes off of them. They're making memes off of like certain phrases and certain lyrics. Couple of people that I love are Dwight Jokum and another account called Boy Orbison. So kind of mixing, and they actually do, some of them go into like country history. They go even farther back and talk about like who actually wrote certain songs that are now big hits now, and they make fun of modern country because, you know, I'm like, that's great. I also would like to like, make fun of modern country. Anyway. My favorite part, the piece de resistance, was when they did a 90s, in March they did a 90s country like March Madness bracket where they did a genius thing for social media where basically you would go through, and in Instagram you have the poll option, and they would have two songs every single day. They would go head to head, and then you had to vote on your favorite song, and then they had one song to rule them all, which I believe was incorrectly chosen. It was Neon Moon. It was Neon Moon by Brooks and Dunn. I thought it should have been Boot Scooting Boogie, but anyway, it just got me so involved and so like invested in this, and I thought it was genius. It was amazing. So yeah,
these bracket using Instagram story polls, that's a fun idea. You could do that with anything.
Really, anything, especially things that people have very firm opinions on. I mean, like
pizza toppings.
Oh.
Cereals.
Yeah. Cereals.
Why are all the things I'm thinking of snacks?
Snacks, because they're very important. They're very important. Oh my gosh. I just had a very good idea. Like, here, Gap or Abercrombie and Fitch or whoever, you could do a bracket of styles of jeans. Because like as like this jean styles just are recycled, they're just recycled over and over again. And I've noticed that the low rise hip huggers are coming back, and it's giving me anxiety because that style is the worst style ever for like 98% of the population. Those jeans are designed for people that are like Keira Knightley and Keira Knightley only. Like, no hate, no shade, but like that's it. However, they're coming back, and I'm like, why? Why?
For who?
For who? So I think we should have a bracket system and let the people decide, because there's so many different kinds of jeans. You have like, anyway. So you have a lot of opinions on jeans, I feel.
I do. But
Yeah,
this
see?
podcast is not about jeans.
I know. I've had like 3 jean questions coming to my mind.
I won't go into detail on jeans.
Okay, I have one question, because I came into this before we started to push record today, and you all were talking about some interesting stuff that I want to kind of bring to light. So I want to know how everybody most likes to consume music. So like, are you listening to music in your car? Are you listening to it alone while you're crying in your room? Are you listening to it at a concert? Like, what's your favorite place to listen to music, and how do you most like to enjoy it, Amber?
Oh, so I hate concerts. Hate them.
We've hate?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Enough that I don't even let FOMO get in my way. I actually have a concert coming up with friends. It was a gift, and I'll go to that with my friends. I may or may not have a couple drinks ahead of time to try to enjoy it, but I don't like crowded spaces. I think people, especially like this day and age, are rude, and it's constantly about where they're going. And so you're getting cut off. They're just loud. They're in your space. I don't know. I don't like crowds of people. And my husband's been that way like our whole marriage. And I used to be like the opposite of that. And he's like sucked me into his people hating ways. So my favorite way to enjoy music is actually just, usually I listen to books when I'm in the car alone, but if I have a group of people in the car, that's when the concert comes on. Actually, just yesterday, we were rocking the music.
Yeah, we were.
2 blocks, and I was like, I got friends in the car, and they sing, and I'm cranking the music up.
That was fun. That was really fun. And
Yeah.
somehow you picked a song that got us from point A to point B with it started and it ended when we were parked. Like, that was weird.
Well, notice I went around the block so that we could get that whole song in.
So that was intentional. Okay.
Yeah, I planned that down to the second. No, and then if I'm alone, the times that I listen to music are usually like when I'm cleaning or I need motivation. But yep.
I don't listen to music very often. I don't know if it's my brain and the way that I process. I grew up as a dancer, and so I have like, it almost seems to me like music almost has this sense of functionality to me as opposed to like part of my hobby or enjoyment. But the way my brain works, I get more relaxed if I can follow long form story. So that's why I listen to podcasts or 20-hour long audiobooks, or, you know, something that I can kind of get long-term invested in, but don't have to focus. I don't know. So I have a hard time listening to music very often. However, when I am in large crowds, whether it's a concert or a performance, or, you know, at Disneyland where they do the fireworks light show and there's dancers and there's like, I cry. I just cry. Like, I can't help but cry. Like, because I don't know if it's because I'm a performer and I just love to perform, and just the energy of watching a group of people execute what they've practiced and to music and lights, and it makes me cry embarrassingly, and I kind of like hide in the corner.
Aww.
But
It's
that's
very
really
emotional.
I know that I'm like really relaxed if I do turn on music instead of a book in the car. Like if all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, I think I could go for some music. That means usually that I'm like in a really good mental space, that I don't need that distraction. I can kind of just enjoy the moment. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I'm kind of cued into knowing that I'm chill, you know?
I relate to that 100%. Yep.
Wow.
Adrienne, what about you? How, when, why do you listen to music?
I love music. I love it all the time. I listen to it. Well, I do listen to it when I'm working sometimes when I need to get my energy up. I have a dance playlist. It's so good. It's just like dance. And then I just like type away. But I do love, so I'm very picky about concerts. Like I don't really love huge stadium concerts. Like I would never, if someone was just like, hey, I got tickets to see, even like Shania Twain, I love Shania Twain, but like so many people, like I'm just like, like that just seems like a lot of hassle. And there's always like, like different sections you have to like find. It would probably be fun, but I like more smaller concerts, and I like kind of just going to see local bands, and because usually they're a little bit less people, they're not mega stars, but I just love I like going to concerts like that. One thing that when I was dating my husband, we got married later, obviously that's how it works, but
explain more.
Yeah, when we were dating, he is very much into punk rock, and I feel like punk rock is this like subculture, subgenre of music, right? And I wasn't really exposed to it growing up in a small town. I wasn't really involved with it. It just sounded like a lot of noise. I also like played piano forever, and like to me in my head, like songs are like organized, pretty songs, right? And you listen to punk rock, and it's just like But if you go to a punk rock show and you're in this it'd probably be Amber's worst nightmare, because it's like all this energy, and it's about what they're saying, and then people the purpose of the show is to get everyone like involved on their feet, and you got like the mosh pits running around, and people are just like so much energy. I've never been in a mosh pit myself. I've just kind of like watched from the outskirts and just been like, oh my goodness, this is wild. Like you'll see people get like punched in the face and then like hug each other like afterward, like because they'll be like by accident, but like there's never, it seems very violent, but it's like not at the same time. It's like controlled chaos. It is fascinating and very fun, and that's one thing I can't wait to go to after COVID. I like really want to go to a punk rock show and just like stand there and be like, whoa. It's like standing in a storm. So
if we were all at a punk rock show, Amber would be pissed in the corner. Adrienne would be in the corner watching in awe. I'd be in the corner crying.
And Seth would be in the middle of it.
I would be in the mosh pit punching and hugging people. That would totally be me 100%.
Yeah. We went to, there was this concert, and maybe they still do it, but I don't know about concerts anymore. When I was younger and had more sense of adventure, I guess, it was up at Snoqualmie Pass, and there's a massive concert at the base of the mountain, and you ski and you can hear it almost anywhere you are, and then on the entire mountain. But we'd come down from a run, and we're kind of sitting on the hill watching, and there are people in ski boots on the mosh pit. I'm like, they're getting kicked in the head with these boots. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, it was so crazy.
That sounds like so much fun. See that? Yeah. Yeah. Also, like what you were saying, Lacey, about like music as a purpose. Like I went to film school. The first time I went to college, I went to film school, and for me, like music is often like, I'm like one of those people that has like, I'll turn on the music in my car, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a spy. I'm going to like crack a code. I'm gonna do like there's music that like I'll like put myself in like a movie, or like I'm a character, or like it kind of gets me in the mood to like do something, cool, or like, oh yeah, I want to be sad right now. I'm gonna listen to some really sad grunge rock and like want to cry or for some reason. But I'm very like, I don't know. I use it as like atmosphere, and also like to bring up memories, or like you have like old boyfriends or old experiences. Like my dad used to play hockey when I was a little kid. If you've ever Seth, you would love to go to hockey games. Amber, maybe not. Because hockey games, oh, you do? Because they're like so quick. They're like, but they have coordinated the music to like each little play, and then once the play is over, then they have like this specific music. And I remember there's some specific Rolling Stone songs that I associate with hockey, and just getting so excited because everyone's like stoked to be there and like probably drunk and happy, and I don't know.
Yeah.
There's usually a substance that helps me like hockey games. Also, the only time I've ever went, we were like in a row by ourselves on the glass, so we could like pound on the glass. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people. There weren't a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Seth, I'll
soundtracks.
ask you this question too, but Adrian inspired one thing from my history. In high school, I was communications officer for ASB, like perfect job for me, right? I was in charge of the reader board and the assemblies, right? And so my first time as the communications officer in charge of an assembly, which meant I had to like create a playlist for the opening of the assembly and like run the sound. And when I turned on like We Will Rock You, and 2,000 students started doing that same feeling that I get when people are performing, I was like, oh my God, I have the power to control people with the music song that I choose. Like, I even am getting goosebumps right now thinking about how wild it is to be able to control a group of people with music. It's so interesting.
I'm so glad you said that, because my answer to the question totally plays right into that. If you want me to just continue here. So unlike Adrian and Amber, I love huge concerts. Like, you pack the Tacoma Dome with, what is it, like 30,000 people that thing seats. My favorite, I actually have two scenarios for my favorite consumption of music. And this is one of them. My favorite is when the band or the artist or whatever is playing up on the stage a song that everyone knows, and they just back out of the mic, and you can hear the entire like 30,000 people singing it out at the top of their lungs, and it's just like a massive collective, everyone on one mindset. It's just there's something just magic about it. It's amazing. So that's my one scenario. It's epic. If you ever get a chance, you got to go do it just once, just to feel that feeling. Join in with the singing. Okay. So my second one is when the music, when something moves me to the place where I want to learn a song, like on the guitar or on the piano. My favorite way to consume that music is when it's pouring out of me and I'm feeling the emotion of the song, and I'm hearing myself sing the lyrics and watching my hands, whether it's on the keys, play it out, or on the strings, strumming it out. There's just something about being able to connect to the music in a way that makes it your own, because at that point you can even change up the notes you're using within the chord or whatever to make it your own, and to bring out the emotions that you feel when you're playing it. Because as a musician, whenever you hear a song, and Adrian, you play piano, so you can probably relate to this. Whenever you hear a song, part of you is constantly like, I wonder how they did that, or I wonder why they chose those specific notes, because I would have, done this to actually lift up the lyrics or to overpower the lyrics, depending on different things. So there's something about being able to take a song, make it your own, and then just hear yourself portraying, telling the story, producing this art in a slightly different light. That is just, it's my favorite. I love it so much. So.
You're very good at it.
Everybody, let's really quick rapid fire as we kind of wrap up. Your favorite genre, if you had to pick, and without thinking about it. Lacey, what is it?
I don't even know exactly what you'd call it, but when we were in high school, so early 2000s, kind of pop punk, Avril Lavigne and Yellow Card, and like that is like kind of like imprinted as the music of my growing up and like the music of my soul.
Yeah, so fun to sing with friends. Adrian,
Seth.
what would you say? Oh,
Grunge.
Who's
Grunge.
up? Okay.
Grunge. Early grunge. Post punk grunge. Like early, like late, like Pixies, but then also Nirvana. So like, yes.
Okay, worship music, for sure. Pretty much any timeline, but anything that I can connect to and just worship to, yeah, 100%.
yep, I'm all in for hip hop.
Hick hop.
Hick hop. Love it.
Hip hop, any kind of bluesy country, like old kind of country mixed with some rap. It's like they married my two favorite things.
Oh, I love it.
There's actually one artist who is Waylon Jennings' grandson. He's a rapper, but he like brings Waylon's tracks in over his music.
That's amazing.
Waylon Jennings and Struggle Jennings. I love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All right, so our last wrap-up question of the day, social media for good, okay? It's not all light and love all the time. We've got bad habits. I want a quick rapid fire. What's your worst social media habit right now? Let's all feel relatable to each other. And next month, we're going to be talking about kind of some strategies that we can use on social media. We basically have gone through and looked at the most popular content over the last couple years for us, and we're diving into those, and we'll put an angle on them for social media for good. But for today, wrapping up, what's your worst social media habit right now? I will start. Mine is whenever I am doing something not on social media, like something intentionally not on social media, like meditating or in nature, I can't help but compose the social media post that I'm going to write about it in my head while I'm doing it. It's madness. That's the worst for me. I can't help it. Amber, what about you?
My worst habit is I have a lot of stuff going on, and anytime I pick up my phone to do something, I immediately hit the Facebook button, even though that's not why I picked up my phone. And what happens is I'm 40 now, so I forget why. Once I go, that's focus, Amber. I don't remember why I picked my phone up in the first place. So then I set it down. Then I remember I pick it up and hit the Facebook button again. It's awful. It's a really bad habit. And it's just so much a part of my life right now that, yeah, it feels pretty gross, but that's it.
I like it. So true. So real.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be 40 to have that problem, Amber.
It happens to me all the time.
I'm forgetting what you were doing, like walking into the kitchen to do something and then going, what was I coming in here for?
No. Yeah.
Okay, Adrian, what about you? What's your bad habit?
My bad habit. I'm actually kind of burnt out on social media right now, so to the point where I'm not creating as much as I consume, and I know that you really should. So my bad habit definitely right now is going down to these really weird rabbit holes of like super niche, weird, like places that I'm just like, I need to know about, like, I don't know, like Brazilian astrology people. I don't know, just like the most random niche things, and there's like little communities of like specific things, and I'm like, yes, I know that these people exist, but what do I do with this information? Nothing. Stupid.
Okay, what about you, Seth?
Right now, my probably worst habit is opening TikTok in situations where I shouldn't, because all other social media opens silently, but you know what does not open silently? TikTok. So you open it, and definitely there's a lot of inappropriate things on TikTok as the algorithm tries to figure out. And for some reason, whenever that first video pops up, it's always something that is inappropriate for the scenario that you're in. So that's mine, opening TikTok and letting the volume blare.
I wish
That's
there could be a
amazing.
setting. There really should be a setting. Like, do you want to start silently? Duh. You know?
No, I don't.
Yeah. You would think that TikTok would do that as a feature because, I mean, they do have really great, like, captioning in that app, you know? Like, it's interesting. Also, Seth, you're the one that really tipped me out. Like I was like, well, Seth has been going on about it. I really need to figure out TikTok. So I downloaded TikTok last week and spent probably 2 hours on it, just like deep in a wormhole. Again, on sewing TikTok because I love to sew. And did I actually sew? No, I spent 2 hours on TikTok. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have ruined your life.
We just got to watch, just like you said, Adrian, our creation versus consumption.
it's true.
Yes.
Because we all know that we hit a place of depression if we are just consuming and not creating. So, all right. Well, thank you three so much for your time. This was so fun. It's been a while since we've had like this set group of people. It's just super fun. And it's like we got to see each other in person yesterday as a group for the first time in a long time. So I feel like this was a nice next day activity.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tune in next month. We're going to be talking about the first one of next month is all about emojis. So if you're curious about emojis, tune on in. And we hope you're having a great rest of your day, that you're using social media for good, and that you keep learning. We will talk to you soon. Bye.
California nearly died in Arizona, but I still have the Montana state of mind. I found my love in Indiana, lost the love that down in Alabama, but I won't lose my Montana state of mind. Oh, never gonna lose. Oh, never gonna lose. I'm lucky that way, 'cause it's a Montana state of mind. This Spry Space podcast was produced by Spry Social Media Marketing, Digital Marketing Agility, edited by Chad Hinman, and executive produced by Lacey Fott.